Hi there, I'm Crystal. I am a coach, an author. I was diagnosed with idiopathic gastroparesis way back in 2004, and I have spent the last 10 plus years helping others worldwide learn to live well with the condition. This video is for anyone struggling with a chronic health issue, so if that is you, stick around. All right, so I assume most of you watching this are probably struggling with a chronic health issue, namely gastroparesis. And today's chat is all about a different way of looking at health. And it is a conversation that I recently had with Samantha. If you've been around a while, you might actually remember Samantha. She has been a client of mine for quite a while, and she and I recorded a conversation about her own journey with gastroparesis, her transformation from what she called just existing with gastroparesis to truly living with gastroparesis. And so if you haven't seen that, I will put the link above as well as in the description box down below. But today we're talking in general about health and what health looks like from this inside out perspective that we've been exploring through our videos more recently. And Samantha is a psychologist. She is a trained psychologist. She has been working with patients as a psychologist for many years now, and she is just now starting to offer coaching for people with chronic health issues, for people with gastroparesis who are really, really struggling and looking for relief around that struggle. And so in today's video, we are just having a conversation about what health looks like to us now, what it looks like to truly be thriving in the midst of a chronic health condition. How is that even possible? And Samantha talks a little bit about how the work that she does as a coach is different than traditional therapy and what those of us who have done therapy might be used to. So stick around. I think it's a fantastic conversation. And if you are struggling with any aspect of living with a chronic illness, I think you'll hear something in this that might be helpful. Hi, Samantha.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited for our chat today. So last time you and I did a video and shared it, we were talking about your personal experience with gastroparesis and kind of in our coaching relationship together. But today I think we're going to talk more generally about health and maybe how our own perspectives on health have changed. And now you beginning to work as a coach yourself, maybe share some of your perspectives on that as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Great. So, I mean, I guess I don't exactly know where to start, but I think just to kind of kick off a conversation here, how has your ideas about health in general changed? How have they changed over the last couple of years where you've been looking at things more from this inside out perspective? What looks different to you now?
Well, it's so different to me because I think I've mentioned this to you before. I used to think that I had to be 100% healthy to be okay. So I was always chasing that 100% healthiness, which I don't think now is really attainable. I don't think it's realistic. And then you put yourself under so much more stress to achieve that ideal, which in reality doesn't exist. And so then you constantly feel like you're in a state of scramble that, okay, I've had a symptom flare up. So where's my checklist? And I need to do all these things. And, and if I don't do these things, and so you get yourself into a real tailspin. Whereas now, in the last several years, I've realized, well, I actually don't have to be 100% healthy to be okay. I can be in pain and yet still have a good day. It's not a one or the other. It can be both of them together. It can be, I can be in pain and I can be okay. Or I can be in pain and I can still feel happy. So I've realized that you don't have to be absolutely perfect, whatever perfection is, to be okay within yourself.
Yeah. I think that's probably hard for a lot of people to hear because
Mm,
we're really not given that message at all, as a society, as a world. It's not okay to be unwell, really,
mm,
if we listen to the messages that are coming at us all the time, right? I mean, there's so many ideas that health is kind of paramount. Physical health is like the most important thing. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything. Um, and I like what you're saying about kind of taking, this is what I'm hearing, taking the meaning out of healthy, or, what it means to be, like you said, 100% healthy, or um, the idea of what that means, kind of separating that from the truth of how you are and how you feel, not just physically, but, like you said, the being okay.
yes. And I
Yeah.
think it's, as you say, it's so true because society have a message that if you're not well, you're not okay. So those two, you you learn or you start to think that those two just go hand in hand and they go together. So unless I'm 100% well, then I'm not okay because I'm getting all these different messages from society. And in saying that and in talking about the journey that I've come through, that's not to say that each day isn't a challenge and that there isn't pain every day, there aren't symptoms every day, but knowing that deep down I'll be okay just takes a whole layer of pressure off. And it's not to say that I don't do anything to help those harder days, try and make them easier, but I don't feel that I'm in a scramble and in a pressurized situation that, well, I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to do this. I'm doing them more from a sense of calmness than pressure.
I so relate to that. And I think the idea of, if you are not healthy, you're not trying hard enough. It's
Mm-hmm.
another message that we get a lot. And I think especially those of us who have spent a lot of time in the chronic illness community, in whatever way, whether that's reading books or being in, Facebook groups or whatever it is, there seems to be kind of this prevailing belief that if you're not healthy, it's your fault, right? You haven't tried hard enough. You haven't found the right program or the right diet or the right guru or whatever it is. And therefore it is constantly on you and constantly a reflection of who you are
Mm-hmm.
if you are unhealthy,
Yes.
which is bananas. I mean, now I see that as complete nonsense, but I think for a long time I really believed that. Like, I'm just not trying hard enough. I'm not thinking the right things. I got very wrapped up in positive thinking, and if I'm not healthy, then it's just my thoughts aren't right. And I think sometimes what you and I are talking about can be misunderstood as that, well, just think more positively, have a different attitude, which is not what we're saying at all. Um, but you're right, that just puts so much pressure,
Mm.
in addition to whatever you feel physically, in addition to just not feeling well physically. Now there's all this other stuff about what it means about you and what it means for the rest of your life, and just all of these stories
Yeah.
on top of that. And like,
Yeah.
who wouldn't be debilitated by that?
That's right. And I relate that back to in our last coaching session, you were talking to me about the onion and the layers of the onion, and peeling the layers away. And this is like all these extra layers are added on to what's already a challenging situation, regardless of anything else.
Yeah. And so, how do you see kind of what you and I are talking about as being different from the idea of, just have a different attitude about it, or just, be more positive about it, just grin and bear it, and go on with your day? I posted a video, I don't know if you saw it, but I posted a chat with Megan recently. And some of the comments on that were, that's all well and good, but you can't just ignore it and pretend it's not happening when you're feeling really ill. And I think that's a common misunderstanding. So I'd like to just talk about that for a little bit.
I think when someone says to you, oh, just, have a different attitude or think more positively, it's almost insulting in a sense, as if, as you were saying, that you're just not trying at all. Because if you just switched your perspective, then you wouldn't be in pain and you'd be able to eat whatever you wanted to eat and everything would be fine. But I think that, yes, part of it is your perspective and your thought process, but I think to simply tell yourself, well, you just need to have a positive attitude, is then blocking out all feelings and all feelings and all thoughts that you have around what's going on for you, which I don't think is healthy, because it's then just trying to block it all out and it's all going to come back. It's just going to continue to snowball and snowball, and then it's going to hit you 10 times harder than what it would have beforehand. I think what I've learned and what I've experienced more so than anything, because I've been, I guess, immersing myself in this inside out way of thinking for over 2 years now. And so I've seen that change in myself and experienced it firsthand, is that if we realize that a lot of the pressure is coming from our thoughts, and if we can create that space between our thoughts and our feelings, then our perspective on things change. And it's not seeing things more positively or just, just suck it up and deal with it approach, but it's more, there's less pressure. There's more space and more calmness there, and there's more wisdom that comes through. And it's, there can be the thought, well, I'm still in pain and I still have this going on, but I know that I can do this and this might help and it will pass and it will be okay. And I think that's where it helps so much more, rather than, oh, well, if only I was just positive.
Yeah. And I think that space is kind of the key, the space to really notice the stories that are running through our heads. And it's not like replacing our thoughts with different thoughts. It's truly just noticing that we're having these thoughts, and that is what is creating our experience. I think kind of a crux of positive thinking is think positively so that your situation will change. And, what we're talking about really has nothing to do with the situation itself. No. It's our experience of it. So I think even just the intention behind that is so different than what you and I are talking about, because to be honest, I'm not going to speak for you. You can say if you agree, but I don't really think we have nearly as much control as we think we do over our physical experience. I mean, if we did, you and I would be totally healthy 100 times over for all of the stuff that we have tried in the tight grips we have held on things over the years. And so, I think all of these misunderstandings are based primarily on that misunderstanding, that we can control our physical experience. And if we're having a physical experience that we don't like, we just need to try harder to control it, whether that's through, changing our thoughts to manipulate our body or whatever the situation is. But that to me kind of feels like the deep misunderstanding in all of this.
I agree. Absolutely.
And again, that doesn't mean we don't do anything. I know you still do things to support your physical health. I still do things to support my physical health, but I like what you said about those things coming from a different place. And I don't remember what word you used, but to me, I kind of think is like, you can just kind of make better decisions and hear better guidance coming through I've probably shared this on my channel. I've probably shared it with you, but when I used to do group programs, I always shared a poem about a bee, a bumblebee that had gotten into a room through a window, and then the window was closed. And so the bumblebee just kept banging against the window because it was frantic to get out of this room, never noticing that the door is open right across the room. And I think, so many of us dealing with physical health issues, especially chronic health issues, we're just banging our head against that window, trying to change our situation. Whereas, what you and I are talking about is more like stepping back and looking around and finding that door on the other side of the room.
Yeah. Which is hard to do. And it's not that it's an easy thing, and it takes so much time, and there's still so much learning that goes with it. So I can understand how people might listen to this and think, oh, well, that just sounds too simplistic and that just seems so easy. But it's once you start to have that awareness and have a bit more space, it does become easier overall. That's not to say every day is easy, because it's not, but it's a lot easier than it was.
And I think easier in a different way than we're expecting it to be easier, or think, it should be easier. Like, easier doesn't necessarily mean your symptoms are better.
No.
I mean, easier is to me a state of mind. Some days my mind is calmer and those days feel easier. And some days my mind is very, very busy and those days feel hard. Kind of separate from whatever is happening with my physical health.
Definitely.
So you are a trained psychologist. You've been working with clients in doing therapy and as a psychologist. And now you are starting to work as a coach, talking with people about physical health from this inside out perspective. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about how that's different. Like, how is this coaching different than what you do as a psychologist?
It's different in the sense that when you have a client come in and present with a particular struggle or challenge or issue, what we tend to do as psychologists is focus on that issue and, focus on what's gotten them to that point, that whatever the challenge is has become difficult for them, has become a struggle for them. We focus on interventions and strategies to apply at times when their symptoms associated with that challenge, so maybe it's their anxiety or their depression, becomes worse. And so there's so much focus on that particular struggle or that particular battle. And from doing the inside out work with you and the other programs that I've done, it's interesting because when we're in the midst of the turmoil, from a psychology perspective, we focus on, okay, well, yes, I could do my controlled breathing, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. So I've got all my strategies there and going through them and trying to make it better. But from looking at it from the inside out perspective, what that tends to do is it tends to reinforce that turmoil that we're going through at that particular moment, because it's making us focus on that a lot more. Now, that's not me saying that we don't use strategies at all, because I still use strategies for myself and I use them with my clients on a day-to-day basis. But rather than utilizing those strategies when we're in the midst of the turmoil and we're in that pressurized situation, it's acknowledging that I'm getting caught up in my thoughts, that my thoughts will pass. I don't necessarily need to do anything. And then when we reach that place of calmness, or that almost space between the thoughts and feelings, then our instincts or our wisdom kicks in, and it's, okay, I'm going to do some breathing now. And then that helps reduce whatever feelings, if it's feelings of anxiety that or worry that we might be having. And then we still use those strategies, but we're using them at a different time. And so that's the big difference that I've really noticed.
You said so many really great things there. The point about focusing on the problem, I think, is huge, because I feel like that's, our natural inclination is it looks like this is my problem. For you and I, from a physical health perspective, we both have had gastroparesis. And so it looks like that is my problem. So I need to focus on that, of course, to solve my problem, to get rid of my problem. And I think that's how people end up in all of these, gastroparesis support groups and Facebook groups, and following all these accounts on Instagram and, TikTok and all of these things. It just, the opposite happens though. Like you said, it just reinforces that this is a problem. Staring at your problem, what's it going to do? It just makes it look bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And so I really like what you're pointing out about, from this inside out perspective, that's not the problem at all. And it doesn't really make sense to look there, because you're basically looking at a story created by your mind and reinforcing it with so much, power and attention and truth by constantly staring at it is the problem. Instead of looking at, what's really going on here, which is, we've got a lot of thinking about this thing that we've made look like a problem completely innocently. And it's a totally different experience.
It is. It's a completely different experience and a completely different way of coming at it and approaching it. And by focusing on the problem, it's when you're in the height of your symptoms, it then reinforces that message that I need to be 100% healthy to be okay. And I'm not 100% healthy, therefore I'm not okay. And so then it just completely spirals. That whole thought storm just completely takes over. And that's not to say that still with my job, I don't focus on the underlying problem why someone's come to see me. But it's looking at things from a different perspective as well. And it's still teaching strategies that they can still improve their skills and enhance their skills. But it's approaching it completely differently. And I know a lot of people will probably think it sounds really simple, because I know that I've struggled with it for a while, and it's like, this just seems too simplistic. Is it really that easy? But when you take all the unnecessary layers away, it works. And I can honestly say that, because it's not that I've taught it. I haven't taught it at all. I've gone through the programs and I've experienced it firsthand. And then I've seen the impact that it's had on my gastroparesis and physical health and mental health.
With a lot of these strategies, I know when I was struggling with anxiety really bad and panic attacks, I used meditation as a tool, in the moment. I'm in the middle of a panic attack and I'm like, okay, I have to try to sit and meditate, because, that's going to make me okay. And that's going to make me better. And I'm literally, shaking and trying to meditate. And that was not effective. And it was, not intuitively something that made any sense at the time, but it was something, my brain said, this is a tool, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And, now I meditate sometimes when it feels like it would be a nice thing to do. And it's a totally different experience. And so it's once again kind of pointing to the fact that it's really not about any of these things, right? It's not about what looks like the problem. It's not about the tools that we utilize. It's not that any of this is good or bad or right or wrong. It's just a lot of us have a lot of misunderstandings around all of this. And so, what you and I have done in our sessions and now with clients is just to bring light to those misunderstandings and to just ask questions like, what if it doesn't work that way? What if you don't need a strategy to deal with a feeling, because a feeling's going to pass on its own and you're going to be okay. And just having those conversations. Because as you know, those questions can change people's lives. I asked you one very simple question the first time we talked, and it changed everything for you.
I did. It just opened things up, and I just felt a complete sense of calmness. Now, that didn't make my gastroparesis go away. That didn't make my thinking about gastroparesis go away, or all the other stresses that were there. But it gave me some space, and it made me truly see that I will be okay.
Yeah. And I think that's what all of this that you and I, that's what we point to just again and again. Like, we are okay. We will be okay.
Yeah.
Any uncomfortable feeling, be it physical or emotional, we will make it through them all. We have made it through 100% of the uncomfortable feelings that we have had up until this point. And again, it's not the intention really to change the physical experience, but my physical experience has also changed as I have been in this understanding more. And not that I don't have gastroparesis anymore or gastroparesis symptoms, but even the symptoms feel different when they don't have all that emotional power behind them. It feels different to be nauseous and, have abdominal pain and not have anything on that, not have the thoughts of, what does this mean? How long is this going to last? What do I do? I have to get rid of this. Is it getting worse? Physically, it feels different to not have all of that stuff going on at the same time.
Yeah, it makes it feels more manageable.
Yeah. Which is really all we're trying to do here, right? Is make life feel easier.
Yeah.
That's it. And and to know that when life looks really hard, that's a busy mind at play, and your mind is going to calm down and your life is going to look a little bit easier. And it's not on you to do that.
And it's that difference between living rather than existing.
Yeah. I love that. So you are going to be coaching clients now. How can people get in touch with you?
They can email me, and my email address is transformativepsychservices@gmail.com.
I am thrilled that you are going to be coaching clients, and cannot recommend you highly enough. If anybody is looking for support, absolutely reach out and get in touch. Yeah. Anything else before we wrap up for today? Was there anything else you wanted to share that I didn't get to?
I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there you have it. I hope you really enjoyed that conversation with Samantha. One thing that we didn't touch on that both of us after the fact thought might have been an important thing to bring up was when we were talking about the frantic energy that so many of us experience. Just the incessant Googling and looking for answers and looking for help and looking for diets and reading message boards and, watching videos and all of the things that we do from that really frantic place. When I talked about the poem with the bumblebee, I'm sure you can probably relate. I know I can very much relate. Those things that we do in that state, we do them because we think that they're going to alleviate the worry and the anxiety and the questions that we have around gastroparesis. And so we do these things, we keep searching, we keep trying, we frantically look for something because it feels like that that looking, that action is going to alleviate our discomfort. And it doesn't, right? I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it never did. It kind of led me down more and more rabbit holes. More of what you read leads you down more thinking and more discomfort in the long run. And so we do it for a good reason. It looks like if I can just find the answer, I'm going to feel better. And we're not really talking about feeling better physically here. We're talking about feeling better from that frantic worry, that uncertainty, that why me, what's coming, what do I do, all of that feels so heavy and overwhelming and honestly suffocating at times. It looks like the relief to that is somewhere to be found out there. And what Samantha and I didn't really necessarily highlight, which I think is really important in this conversation, is that you don't ever find that relief out there, because the discomfort is coming from a really, really busy mind telling a lot of stories that look really, really real in the moment. That discomfort is just coming from a jumble of thoughts. And looking out there for more information, more stories, more is going to add more up here. And so, personally, I never found the relief that I thought I was going to find by that incessant searching, by, the groups and the posts and all of those things where I thought I was going to find an answer that would bring relief. Where I eventually found relief, and I think this is true for Samantha, and I could speak for her too, is through this inside out understanding, which shows us that discomfort is telling us nothing except we have a lot of thinking going on and we're believing that thinking. It looks really real to us in the moment. And so we have this discomfort from all of this thinking, and we think we need to do something to alleviate it. And so, like the snow globe that we've talked about, if you want a snow globe to settle, you put it down and walk away. You don't keep shaking it up, right? And it's the same thing with our thinking. Our thinking settles all on its own. We don't have to do anything at all. It settles down and we feel better. That's why we say sleep on it, right? Let everything settle. See how you feel in the morning. Usually your mind's a little clearer. And so that's the space that Samantha was talking about. That's just the little bit of knowledge that allows you to kind of put the brakes on when you're going down that frantic rabbit hole, because you know that the relief that you're seeking isn't to be found there. That's not gonna do it, and you might still do it, but you do it kind of knowing what you're doing. There's an awareness that comes to it, and then you need to do it less, because you start to realize, like, I'm going to be okay, like Samantha was saying, because my mind is going to settle down and I'm going to feel differently and I'm going to see this differently. And the piece that we were talking about, you just then make clearer decisions, right? From a clearer mind. Things occur to you that might not have occurred to you. You see that open door instead of banging your head against a window. And things still happen, but it just feels a lot easier. So I just wanted to add that in, because that was something she and I talked about after we stopped recording, and I thought this might actually be something that, just kind of unlocks something for somebody or kind of cracks that door open a little bit. So I don't know. I hope that might have been helpful for you. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you heard something in this conversation that just made you a little bit curious, that made you think, like, what if something these people are saying is true? Like, what would that mean for your experience? And if you want to explore that, I very much suggest that you reach out to Samantha. I am not currently doing coaching, but I 100% suggest that anybody who's looking for some help reach out to her. So that's all for today. I will see you again next time. Thanks so much for being here.